Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Just to be aware that we have a full slate or a full complement of councillors, and the mayor is not feeling well, so she's doing it online from home. We don't have her on at the moment, but she will join us shortly. So the first order of business is that to acknowledge that we're holding this meeting on the traditional lands of the Sioux Nation, and very pleased to do so. Before I start the approval of the agenda, I just would like to do a bit of a shout out for our police forces. As you all know, in Saanich, they had a horrific bank robbery, and it was very, very evident at that time that the police ran into danger when the civilians are running out of danger. So it's just an acknowledgement that council fully supports our police services, and it became very evident that day that sort of thing can happen anywhere, could happen here. And those officers put their lives on the line for us, and as well as the 911 operators that have to deal with those horrific calls. So I just want to have a little bit of a vote of confidence from Sioux Council and the District of Sioux to our law enforcement that we do appreciate everything they do for us. Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda, that the agenda for July 11th, 2022 regular council meeting be adopted as circulated. Well, I have a change there.
Yes, there's
Okay.
one on the screen to amend to add the two
Oh,
new
right, I
business
should read
items.
that, eh? Oh, okay. The agenda of the July 11th, 2020 regular council meeting be adopted as amended. Addition of supplement information for items number 6.1, development variance permit 7124 Grant Road West, and addition of a supplement information of item 8.1 quarterly RCMP report. So that is the motion on the floor. Do I have a motion for it? Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor Lajeunesse. Any discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise their hand. Thank you. That's unanimous. And Mayor Tate is now online. Mayor, I'll attempt to come to you and questions first. Okay. Okay, the first order of business is 6.1 Developments Permit 7124 Grant Road West. Staff presentation, please.
Great, thank you. Not a lengthy presentation tonight. It's for a setback to the rear yard. The slides here. Here we go. So the property in question is located at 7124 Grant Road West. Applicant seeking a variance to the rear yard setback from 4.5 meters to 1.2 meters, and that's for the location of a detached small suite. This was circulated to staff as it's located in the rural residential RU4 zone. The property is just over 1,000 square meters, so it is subject to those provisions within the zone. There's two separate zoning regulations based on the parcel size. So this being just 4 square meters over, it's subject to those different requirements. The 4.5 meters is the stipulated requirement. The purpose for having this variance is based on the turning location for future use of the small suite. The applicant, upon applying for building permits, noted that additional room was required. So by setting the structure further back to that rear yard, it would provide for greater ease in that property for vehicular circulation to then enter and exit the property. So given that, the siting at 1.2 meters is being requested. Internally, this was circulated. There was no concerns from staff. However, as you see on the supplemental agenda posted today, that there was concern from the adjacent property owner to the west, who along the west and rear property boundary, as you can see on the screen there, would be subject to this variance. So they've raised their concerns. However, given this, staff are in support of the variance, recognizing that if it was 4 meters less in area, 4 square meters less in area, that it would have been able to meet the zoning bylaw requirements for those properties 1,000 square meters or less. However, given this instance, it has to come before council. You can see here, this is a schematic of what the small suite would look like. So approximately 13 feet in height from main floor elevation to the roof. And there you can see on the screen the circled red area. That's the location to the rear where it'd be sited to the rear property line. So with that, staff supports the variance from 4.5 meters to 1.2 for the proposed accessory building, which is that 1-story small suite. And that concludes my presentation.
Sorry, now I have to tell myself microphone. If there's anybody from the public that wishes to speak on this item, 7124 Grant Road West variance, please do so now. Okay, I would take that as no. So now we'll go to council discussion. Council St. Pierre.
Through your worship, to staff, I have a question. I'm curious, if the variance was denied, the property could, the building can still go up. They just have a tougher time with getting through with a car. Is that correct?
That's correct. If the variance was not granted tonight by council, then the applicant could still go ahead and construct the structure, just subject to the 4.5 meter setback requirements.
Thank you.
Any other questions of council? Okay. Councillor Bateman, you have the floor. Yes, I have to remember who you were there.
Yeah. So through you to staff, I did look, there seems to be a number of variances that have already occurred on these, on the 2 properties, the neighboring property as well as 7126. I did find a variance submission back in November 2016. And that report states that the current property, current building on at 7124 is set back 1.8 meters from the property line. And then 7126 that night in November 2016 got a variance down to 1.2 meters for the side property line. And here we have a third variance? Is it unusual to see so many variances, such a cozy relationship between two properties?
No, each site is specific to the land use considerations for that property owner and the surrounding property. So in those instances, if a variance is warranted and the sufficient rationales provided by the applicant, that can be considered by council. And it's common to have multiple variances on properties if need be for the development that's on there.
Could I
Go
also
ahead, Councillor Bates.
ask, we did receive one letter here from that neighbor. Were all neighbors in the area notified of this variance, and were there any other feedback?
All neighbors that were in the 100-meter radius were mailed notifications. This property owner did speak with me over the phone last week and indicated that they would be providing the written submission that's within the supplemental agenda tonight.
Any other comments from council before I say something? Maya? No? Okay. Yeah, I guess the problem I have is that at 12:45, the supplement comes out today. And with the concern of the neighbor in a situation like that, I like to go have a closer look at it myself. Because it coming out so late on the day of a meeting, I did not have time to do that. Normally, when I see that there's nobody objecting to it, then that wouldn't bother me too much. But now we have somebody objecting to it, and I can't quite get to the bottom of exactly what has been objected to. So I am not comfortable moving ahead with it myself. I'd much rather go have a look at the property and make the determination then. But I'd be interested in hearing other council's opinion on that. Councillor St. Pierre.
Should I move motion so we can have a discussion, or?
If I could get some direction from staff, can we discuss that, or do you need a motion?
Yeah, sort of.
You can go ahead and discuss, unless it's a discussion of the motion itself. If it's to discuss what's proposed.
Go
in the
ahead, Councillor
motion.
St. Pierre. Just tell us what's on your mind. We'll see how it works out.
Trying to figure this out. Okay. What I'm seeing here is that there's actually some misconceptions within the letter. I think I heard from Mr. Paolo that the structure is going to be 13 feet, which is nowhere near the 29 feet that the letter writer was concerned about. I can certainly understand, 3-story high next to your fence, you might, have serious issues. I don't know that moving it back another 3 meters would make any difference whatsoever, but regardless, I can understand the issues. But at 13 feet, don't see that much of a problem. From what I can tell, there's just greater safety in terms of people exiting and entering the property with vehicles. If the variance is allowed, the structure would still go up. And I don't think there would be a significant impact on privacy one way or another. But I do think that it would actually impact whether or not vehicles can get in and out easily. And that's more of a safety concern. So I guess that's my thought at this point in time.
Thank you, Councillor St. Pierre. Councillor Logans?
It sounds like we're discussing the motion without a motion being on the floor. But back to what you were speaking of, Councillor Beddoes, I understand your concern, but the public can provide us with letters at any point leading up to the meeting. And that's kind of the sticky point with these types of submissions, is that it's really hard to make a decision without seeing it yourself and being there and having more information. But if we were to just delay all our decisions based on public comment when they have the opportunity to come up and discuss here and have the opportunity to write into us, then we'd be delaying many of our decisions. So unfortunately, I understand where you're coming from, but I think we do need to move ahead with this. And I'll move the motion that council authorize a development variance permit for 7124 Grant Road West to reduce the rear yard setback from 4.5 meters to 1.2 meters for a proposed accessory building, 1-story small suite for discussion.
Okay, so we have a motioner, Councillor Logans, and we have a seconder, Councillor McMath. So you care to comment to be the motivator on this?
Yeah, I can see both sides of this. I think Councillor St. Pierre's comments that there are some misconceptions are correct in the letter from the neighbor. I also see there's just a lot of tension between neighbors in that circumstance as well, it seems. The tension itself, I'm negating in my thought process. Unfortunately, that's things happen between neighbors and there's nothing council can do about that. But when it comes to the actual variance permit, it is very close to the 1,000 square meter lot area. And I think it is meant to be a small suite as the drawings are showing us. So I think I'm comfortable moving ahead with this motion.
Thank you. Councillor McMath, you'd like to comment, please?
Yeah, echo Councillor Logan's. They clearly have some animosity between the two of them, but if you take that out of the equation, they can build. So they're just asking to build at the rear end. The rest that's noted in the letter really has nothing to do with this application. And so for me, I'll be approving.
Mayor Tate, any comments? Go ahead, Mayor Tate.
I just agree with the two councillors that just spoke. However, maybe our staff could just reach back and just reconfirm that the height is a single story and the 13 feet, not the 29. And also that, you know, the dog is able to do what the dog is currently doing. So, and maybe just to help with our enforcement process, that if the applicant does, or maybe in this case is to the applicant, that if you do have an issue with the dog, that there's a different avenue to address that and it's sort of separate from the variance. I know it's the other neighbor that is raising the concern, but it seems to be focused at a concern about their dog's well-being.
Thank you very much, Mayor Tate. We have another Councillor Bateman you'd like to comment. Go ahead.
So I agree with what's being said today. Here's a situation with two neighbors very, very close together here. Their primary homes are literally separated by a fence. And this new suite is at the very back of the property. So I don't think that will be such, you know, we have setback variances already throughout this property. So I just hope they can get along. You know, we have, you know, dogs barking throughout the night. That can be an issue for many people. And so, yeah, we need a mediator here. Thank you.
Anything from Councillor Lajeunesse? Oh, sorry. I will go to Councillor Lajeunesse first if he has a comment. No comment? Okay, Councillor St. Pierre.
Just very quickly, I recall that in other similar cases, well, not quite exactly the same, obviously, council has actually requested that basically better fencing be put in. So I understand that the fencing is 6 foot tall or some such. It might be interesting to request from the applicant that they actually construct a taller fence. But that's only if it's going to help. And without a site visit, as Councillor Beddoes has suggested, I don't know if it would actually help or not, but it's just a consideration for the applicant. But could be helpful.
Okay, hearing no other any comments, I'll call for the question that council authorize the development variance permit for 7124 Grant Road West to reduce the rear yard setback from 4.5 meters to 1.2 meters for a proposed accessory building, 1-story small suite. All those in favor, raise your hand. And I'll raise my hand too. And so that's unanimous. Oh, sorry, Mayor Tate, I missed you. Did you raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you very much. So that passed unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Next order of business is the adoption of minutes, June 3rd, 2022, June 15th special. Are there any errors or omissions? So Councillor Bateman has moved. Is that for both of them? Thank you very much. Councillor Bateman has moved the minutes adoption for regular and special 13th and 15th. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McMath. Thank you. Any discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise their hand. Sorry?
Yeah, I was just going to thank staff for making
Oh.
the adjustments to the June 13th minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, raise their hand. Thank you. That's unanimous again. Let's go on. Okay, delegation, quarterly report, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, present, I think, is it Staff Sergeant or Sergeant? Sergeant. Okay, Sergeant Shaw, you have the floor.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Tate and Council for making time in the agenda for me again today. And I would just like to start and thank you, Councillor Beddoes, for acknowledging our partners in Saanich and Victoria. It's been a challenging period of time for them. And I've reached out to Chief Duthie as well as Chief Manick and offered our full support and our full support moving forward. So thank you for acknowledging that. It has been a tough time in the police universe, but they're doing good, and we're happy to hear progress is being made. So thank you for making time for that. And while I'm thanking you, I think this is my last time before this mayor and council. So just a quick thank you for your support of the RCMP during this term, and in particular to me, your support of me during this transition from Staff Sergeant Sinden, as well as to staff. It's made it a lot easier. So thank you, and I look forward to working with you, whatever that looks like next term. I've seen some lengthy council meetings lately, so I think this is not much noteworthy in our statistics, relatively static. For the last quarter, being quarter one of our fiscal year reporting. Across the board, unless there's any questions, things stayed pretty flat. We did have, of course, have a tragic notable offense in May in the district. And with the help of our partners at the Integrated Major Crime Unit, that investigation, I'm told, is progressing. Other than that, mental health stays high compared to other reporting areas. Really, again, value our relationship with the Sioux Shelter, the Sioux Shelter Society, community members, partners, bylaw district of Sioux, as we work through that collaboratively, and quite proud of the collaboration. It's sometimes mental health and supports for things associated are met with conflict, and I think we've all done a great job collaborating on that. So pretty proud of that achievement this quarter. We solidified any questions? I'm sorry, maybe I'll stop. Any questions about the quarterly statistics in the agenda?
I have some questions, but it won't be about the stats. You carry on, and I'll jump in near the end.
I also realize, as I said, that I'm not in charge of this meeting, so I'll just keep talking and you stop me. We solidified our performance plan priorities in consultation with our community partners, including, of course, the District of Sioux. Much the same from last year, a focus on road safety. I heard some feedback from council, and we focused on that, particularly speeding, what we title aggressive driving. This quarter, I just finished our reporting on that. We had a very successful distracted driving campaign on Sioux Road this year, which was, well, I say successful. It was a little bit disheartening that it was successful, but I think through education and enforcement, we'll find a balance and hopefully make a bit of a shift there on, of course, what is a major road and was just out, statistics just out in high crash locations as well along there. So we're focusing on that. Continue to work to reduce crime, prevent and reduce property crime specifically, and identifying trends through this quarter. I don't see any particular trends that stand out. I'm hoping that's a result of good behavior and some proactive work by our team. Really focusing this quarter on communication and visibility and maintaining the positive relationships we've built, particularly with the restriction or the reduction removal of COVID restrictions. Our team's done a really good job of getting back out into the community, particularly with schools. We had a big push on to make connections at the schools prior to the end of school and going into summer. Some community events, both within the district and outside. And I know Canada Day falls outside of that, but just by a day. So was really happy to have members there and collaborate with people that were there. A continued focus on employee wellness and respect. I mean, it really is the crux of what we're doing. We need a healthy team, and we're going to continue to make that a priority. Again, really proud of our team. 100% of members that are physically able are reporting for duty, both in the provincial and municipal business lines. And we continue just to try our best to create a culture that's supportive of that with all the pressures of policing. You know, not to dramatize a terrible event, but look no farther than Saanich. And that takes its toll, the reality of policing sometimes, but we also acknowledge that's not always the reality. So, and then a particular focus this year across the province, and certainly for us, with some efforts toward reconciliation and relationship building with our Indigenous partners and communities, recognizing that looks different for everybody within the District of Sioux and our provincial partners as well, and just coming to the table, looking to listen and to learn and to be open to hearing the stories and growing together. So that's an addition this year and a priority for our detachment. As far as our integrated funding partners, of course, VMQ played a big role in the community in May. We continue with mental health calls being a bit elevated among others. We continue to rely pretty heavily on our mobile crisis response team. They've been engaged quite a bit through the quarter and provide a tremendous amount of support, not only to our response, but more importantly to the community members facing those crises and challenges. URSU maintains a regular presence in the community. Regional Domestic Violence Unit has been engaged in a consultative component this quarter. Not much significant engagement, but they're always there if we need them. And we continue to have a robust victim services program, trying to increase a focus on restorative justice and some community-based reparation and healing as we work through some of the conflicts in our town. I think that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Sergeant Shaw. I will elevate you to a staff sergeant next time you're through this way, but thank you for that report. I do have some questions myself, but I will go to councilors first. Do you have any questions or observations for Sergeant Shaw? Okay, Councillor Bateman, you have
I
the floor.
hesitate, Councillor Beddoes, just in terms of, I know we've got to move through quickly here, but I have a few questions. Some of the major incidents over this last quarter, I know the bridge was shut down for a period of time. Can you give us some insights into that incident? This is my curiosity speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, that's of course, the answer is a balance of a person's privacy interest, but also the need to inform a community on what happens and the impacts of things. So we did have someone suffering an apparent mental health crisis that did climb the steel girder or the outside. You guys could probably help me with the word, but outside of the bridge, which did restrict traffic during rush hour, the end of day rush hour. Of course, prioritizing that person and the public safety leads us to an easy, although uncomfortable decision during the commute, but an easy decision to do. We needed to do with the support of Sioux Fire and BC Ambulance. I think the event lasted under an hour. And very fortunately, we were able to connect with that individual. And they did come down and were taken to hospital for some further mental health support.
Okay, another incident involved assault with a weapon at near Journey Middle School back in April. Were you? I know you were seeking a culprit. Was a culprit apprehended in that case?
We did make an arrest at the time of that event. Just upon our arrival at scene, priority was given to the victim, and second priority was delegated to the suspect who remained on scene, and that files before the courts.
And finally, I just had a question vis-a-vis the Mobile Youth Services team. When they come to Sioux, are you aware of their arrivals and departures, and how does that relationship work?
I am not. That is a good question. We do engage in regular meetings virtually with members of that team, the broader community and partners, probation, mental health, addiction services, things like that. And so they do have a bit of a running tally sort of on the youth that are on the missed radar and where they are, whether they're in Sioux and downtown. And what we most often see to rise to the missed team is not in all cases, but commonly a gravitation into the downtown core. So we don't see that team out here necessarily all that often. However, they're highly available, but most of their work with Sioux youth is done in the downtown core.
And a quick comment, just to say, sorry,
Go ahead, Councilor Tate.
I just want to thank, as you said earlier, your work with the Sioux shelters, Sioux bylaw, also Sioux Fire, the property owner in that area, and a lot of people working together to try to make the Hope Center a success. And so thank you.
Yeah, thank you as well, and everybody else involved. Yeah. And it's a work in progress, and we'll keep working together.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. Now I'll go to Mayor Tate. You have a comment or your hands up? Go ahead, Mayor Tate.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to pass on my gratitude to the detachment. Thank you very much to our Commander Shaw for all the times that you've attended before council and provided the reports, but also been available by phone or email, sort of on demand as various issues have arose. So thank you very much. It was great to see some of the officers out either both on Canada Day as well as the Sport Box opening as well. And I've also met someone recently through just other community-wide events. So wonderful that you're getting out there as best you can. A handful of us were in Regina recently attending the FCM convention, and we managed to get a trip over to the museum just outside of Depot. So a little bit of an insight, but I mean, obviously not much into everything that our crew went through to be where you are today. But certainly just appreciated just getting a bit of that insight. So, you know, all the best to all of you, and just thank you very much for your service. It is getting busier in Sioux with a lot of holiday traffic coming in and out. So there's sort of no, when we're quiet in one area with school traffic, another area picks up, the potholes are busy and so forth. Just so thank you for all that you're doing for your community, for our community together, as well as the shelter work, which is ongoing, but just appreciate everyone being available and responsive to these unique scenarios, especially through the pandemic, which is still with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Tate. And I guess the last word goes to me. First of all, I wanted to thank the detachment. When Canada Day, we had 2 RCMP pipers pipe everybody in, and it was wonderful to see them in the red surge and piping as well. The question I have is, it revolves around the Hope Center. I'm getting a lot of calls and letters I'm seeing in regards to general public not feeling safe in that area. And I know you stepped up, but I see the police there a lot of times. Is some of the problem, is it transient homeless that are stopping there, or is it some of our tried and true long-term street people?
Thank you for the question. It's challenging. You know, I come at it to answer that question from a very sort of narrow perspective, and it's hard for me to always answer these questions from a narrow perspective when I try and be collaborative and listen and learn and do all those things. So from a police perspective, and there are different opinions on this out in our community. From a police perspective, I would suggest to you it's maybe 50-50. I mean, I'm not an expert, but with addiction and mental health comes associated calls for service. And it's a balance between community safety and supporting marginalized or vulnerable folks among us. There's been a recent shift given some property issues next to the shelter, which may have sort of spiked some displacement, and things may look different in this current environment. I'm confident, again, with continued collaboration and all the supports from all the services that are available through the shelter largely, that will settle at some point. Yeah, it sort of peaks and valleys.
Well, that in itself is very comforting, because of course, when I get calls on this, and I got 2 today, is, you know, what do you tell them? I say, well, you know, when there's incidents, you call the police. And I'm glad you said that is not a simple matter, that you have to weigh a lot of things, but you are aware of the situation. And from what you're telling me, that you're looking for it to improve now that there's been some changes in that area. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, with any step forward in one area, of course, we'll suffer a step or a half step back in others. I think, again, I don't want to harp on it, but the collaboration is key to us. Having an idea day to day on what's going on and how to best support that transition. So at the end of the day, we're the enforcement arm of what we're doing here, but that's not all we do.
Yeah, I fully understand. I guess I just wanted some reassurance to the public that there's a lot of dialogue going on this file, both with our bylaw, the police, the landowner, and everybody else. A lot of people working to bring some sort of resolution. Not that there could be 100% resolution to that problem, but your presence is very much appreciated in that area. And you know, the more you drive through it, I think better that the citizens will feel. So I just wanted to thank you on that.
Thank you for that. And to that point, we've certainly identified the need to step up our proactive patrols in sort of the shelter area, the adjacent field, as well as Ed McGregor Park, which is sort of a natural place for folk to gravitate to. Just before I came here, I was happy to see one of our more members who was more engaged with the shelter community. He had done a patrol from sort of a random place from the Horn Road side, and he'd walked up through Ed McGregor and made some connections with some folks that were there. In fairness, there was 3 youth being quite loud and consuming alcohol in that park as well. So it's a, you know, with the hot weather comes an assortment of problems. So I do also want to make sure we don't sort of identify the shelter as the sole source of some of the challenges we see in that area, but certainly alive to the need to support and be proactive in it as well, for sure.
Okay, thank you for that report. I think that will set some people's mind at ease somewhat. I mean, it is an ongoing problem, and I don't expect it to be solved overnight, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware how many people are working on to resolve this. So thank you for your part in it. And I also extend to staff and our bylaw that's been doing down there a lot, thanks as well. So is there any other questions for this Sergeant before we move on? Seeing none, thank you very much, Sergeant. And
Thank
again, it was nice seeing you over here the last few months. And like I say, next time you might be the staff sergeant.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Better do that. Report of the Chief Administration Officer on the microphone. Did I miss something? Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I'm rushing to this. I got to get home for, no, I don't. Anyways, my apologies. Mums Stop Harm. We have a presentation, and if they could come up, I believe we have a Melanie Cunningham and a Ben Gorner. Is it pronounced? Pretty close. I knew I'd slaughter it somewhere, but anyways, okay. Thank you very much. You have 5 minutes, and we're looking forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Most of you know me from Sioux Shelter Society. I'm the president, and I'm well aware of the issues that take place there. And we do have a really good working relationship with staff, with Sergeant, not Staff Sergeant. We want to call him Staff Sergeant. But I'm not really here for Sioux Shelter Society tonight. I'm here wearing another hat for Mums Stop the Harm. Mums Stop the Harm is a network of Canadian families impacted by substance use related harm and deaths. We advocate for the change of failed drug policies, provide peer support to grieving families, and assist those with loved one who use or have used substances. I got involved because I have a son who uses substances, and he's my loved one, and I try and support him the best way I can. I'm always fearful that the knock at the door will come from the RCMP to say that he has become one of the statistics to poisoning drug use. So our mission with Mums Stop the Harm is to advocate to end substance-related stigma, harms, and death. Ben, my cohort here tonight, is a retired social worker, mental health and substance use clinician with over 30 years experience. Sioux Shelter Society has partnered with Mums Stop the Harm, Sioux, AKA us too, to support an International Overdose Awareness Day, which is August the 31st. I'm going to hand you over to Ben.
Thanks. So I'm new here. I've just celebrated 1 month in Sioux today. So I came from the Okanagan. I've helped the last 4 years, been involved with Mums Stop the Harm in organizing the International Overdose Awareness Day event. Being a musician, I kind of leaned more towards booking the bands, and that kind of stuff. But how I got there very quickly, I was counseling a young man, and we did okay, and we didn't do okay, and we did okay, and we didn't. And I was working with his family, and he passed in January of 2016. And he was pretty much, if I look beyond that, he was sort of the gateway for me to the crisis, because after that there was just a tsunami of death on my caseload. It was just really hard to take. for all of us. So, and it's still going on. There's not much has changed, unfortunately, and the pandemic has made it a lot worse. But anyway, so I got involved with Mom Stop the Harm because his mom kind of headed up the Kelowna groups. And we ended up, I was doing a presentation on the war on drugs, and she was doing a presentation on Mom Stop the Harm, and we very naturally came together and had a great big hug at the end. And from then on, I've been extremely active with Mom Stop the Harm, doing advocacy, fierce advocacy for the decriminalization that we now are seeing in BC. It's not quite enough. We have to do a lot more work for that. And crucially, we have to reach out and get safe supply accessible to not just a select few, but everyone, basically, is what we're aiming for, so that we can see at least less death from this. We believe that it's not really an overdose crisis. We believe it's a toxic drug poisoning crisis. It's a result of what we termed in the 80s as the Iron Law of Prohibition. I think I wrote about that in the report that I sent. What happens with prohibition, we saw it with alcohol, we're seeing it now dramatically with drugs. The tighter the squeeze, the more the toxic the drugs become, and the more violent crime becomes. Because once you take one fellow, which seems really great, you take somebody off the street and they've got, how much, the biggest haul ever or whatever, the next day that's replaced. And then there's territory wars and that kind of thing. And that comes along.
Okay, I'm gonna, have you got much more in your presentation?
Just to offer, to answer questions about the report.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Just otherwise I have to ask council for some additional time for you to
Oh,
speak.
yeah.
But for a question period, we don't have to do that. So
So the one ask,
I'll let you recap. Okay.
one ask is to have the mayor help or proclaim August 31st as International Overdose Awareness Day. The cities across Canada basically have done so, and we would like to see that with the District of Sioux as well. And that way, it sort of legitimizes the event, but it legitimizes the movement
It's awareness.
and keeps us going. So
Yeah,
stop
that's good. Okay, is there any questions for our delegation? Councillor Bateman, you have the floor.
Well, I resisted commenting at the end of the last section. So you do have a plan for an event here in Sioux. Could you
Yes.
tell us about that?
So the event, we're trying, I'm almost trying to do what we did in Kelowna, I guess. Probably not on as big a scale. So basically what it looks like is we start off, we're hoping someone from council can come and open it for us and say, welcome, today is international, that kind of stuff. And from there, a member or two, or however members we can get from Mom Stop the Harm, we'll talk about that. Maybe it'll be, I guess, between Melanie and myself, we'll talk about what Mom Stop the Harm is doing and what it means to support the International Overdose Awareness Day. We have confirmed, I believe, naloxone training during the event. So that's really cool. And we're discussing a harm reduction booth with somebody on Thursday. So there's 4 or 5 tents of different kinds of things. Hopefully I can access Melanie's experience here and, get some of the resources that are in town and, that kind of thing. So there'll be some booths and that kind of thing. During that time, I've got, 3 musicians confirmed, probably 4 people, hopefully, that will play, acoustic-ish kind of stuff until about 8:30 or so. We shut that down and we have a candlelight vigil. And we have something called Say the Name. So we invite people to come up and say the name of the loved ones that they've lost. And and they light the candles. I have to figure out where we're gonna put those, but not real candles.
I was gonna say, we'd have to alert our fire chief, okay?
No, no.
Battery operated.
Battery, yeah.
Okay, did you get your question? I think so. A lot of very good information there. Thank you very much. Anybody else from council have anything to say? Oh, Mayor, sorry. Yeah, sorry. There you are, Mayor Tate. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the delegation for attending tonight. I would be happy to do the proclamation. We don't require a council resolution for that. So I'm going to ask Councillor Bateman to assist me in doing that together. If you don't mind, Councillor Bateman. I really can't see you through the webcast, so I'm just assuming that you're nodding your head. And also, please keep me informed about the events. I will be in town that day. Would be happy to come and open it and to just share some awareness on this. I agree with you completely. This is about a poison drug supply. And we're seeing some headways there. And I'll leave it at that because it's just so tragically sad. So I just want to thank you for bringing awareness on this, but more than happy to work through the proclamation as well as the events. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have one comment, and that's for Ms. Cunningham. Just to let you know that I've been in your shoes when it comes to waiting for that phone call at 3 in the morning and dreading it, that it's the police saying your son is dead. My son's been clean for 20 years and he's an upstanding citizen and he beat it. And but we had some anxious moments over the years, and I still do not like a phone call in the middle of the night. So I understand where you're coming from, and you have my heart felt out to you.
Just to add to
All right.
that really quick, I run a families facilitation group online from Kelowna and now from here. It's called 3 Months Stop the Harm. It's called Holding Hope. So if you know of somebody who is struggling, just get a hold of one of us.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I really wanted to say that.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It is in the back of everybody's mind going through these days, how toxic it is out there. And I'm still blown away why anybody would put that stuff in them, but I know it's not an easy thing to give up. So thank you very much for the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so now I guess I can ask for a report from the Chief Administration Officer, Mr. Schaefer.
And there's actually nothing to report this evening.
All that waiting, and now I got very good. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Okay, now we have the public question and comment period. Anybody from the public wish to comment on the items that are coming up? Oh, sorry. Sarah, you got some?
There is just the consent agenda ahead of that.
Oh, I missed that too? No.
I'm wrong, you're right. Sorry.
All right. All right. Is there somebody from the public that'd like to speak on any of these items? I see somebody coming through. I think I know her, but you say your name and where you live, please.
Ellen Lures, Casinos. Where it's hotter than here. I wanted to comment, first of all, with what the sergeant brought up about the mental health and how many calls they have, and of course, addictions. He did talk about addictions as well. And then, of course, we had Melanie talking about addictions. And I still would like council to really put that on our priority list, that we need a mental health center and addiction center. And I'd really like to see us doing that as a priority, because it is a priority. And I also want to say harm reduction doesn't mean not using it, means using less. I don't think it's a good thing. That's just my opinion. But getting to the rest of what's in here, I'm going to have to come back a couple times, I think, because there's too many things in here. Page 37. It's about the Sioux Fire Rescue Fleet. Regular council message on the first paragraph. Please note that the attached information is dated and that there's been vehicle replacements as per recommended schedule in the 2018 report. So just that you're aware of that, because then it said on December 13th, 2021, council adopted a 2022 5-year financial plan, which included replacement of engine 204 in 2023. And I'm questioning why. Why is there a replacement for 204? And I see said something about ladders, not having ladders was one of the things. But when I went through your report, I see that there's a lot of vehicles without ladders, and why not just put a ladder on them? That's just my common sense thinking. It also says on page 38, Sioux also increased from fewer than 5,000 in 2011 to more than 6,400 in 2021.
Ms. Lewis, I'm afraid your 2 minutes are up.
Well, there
How
you
much-
go. There's
How
a,
much time?
see all
would-
these things I want to talk about? There's a whole lot of things. So I don't know, unless there's somebody else wants to speak. I don't know what you want to do. I can keep coming back.
I need some direction from staff on how to proceed with that.
I think Mrs. Lewis' suggestion that if there are any first-time speakers, council may want to consider that, but ultimately it's up to council. The council procedure bylaw does limit public speakers to 2 minutes. We may be thinking of public hearings where they can come back repeatedly, but if council wishes to suspend the rules and invite a speaker back a second time, they can do that with a majority vote of council.
Thank you on that. So I'm going to call for any other first-time speakers.
That's fine.
You may not have to move, just wait.
Well, they might want to go on the seat.
Oh, yeah, okay, understood. Any other first-time speakers would like to speak on what's on the agenda here? Hearing none, Ms. Lewis, if you can come back, I would need a vote from council to give Ms. Lewis another 2 minutes. And that's made by Councillor Bateman, and we have a seconder by Councillor McMath. All those in favor? Okay, so you have another 2 minutes.
Can't get through it in 2 minutes, but I'll
Well,
have to.
you have
keep
2 more
coming
minutes
back.
you had
Okay,
before.
It says on page 38, the current bush truck. It takes 3 drivers or 3 passengers, only 3 firefighters. And it says purchasing initial attack truck. It says it has a 4-person cab. So is that 4-person cab include the driver? And the first one, the current bush truck, is it 3 firefighters plus the driver? Is it still both 4? Just my question. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. And then on unit 201, it says there's a currently being replaced, but it doesn't have a mileage on your page. Question what the mileage is. As 204 doesn't, it does have the mileage, but it has no ladder. And 206 doesn't have a ladder either. And 207 doesn't have a ladder either. So I just looked at those going, well, okay, is it the ladder or what is it? Squad unit 210, the utility, is that for firefighters or for equipment? So there's a question there. And then clicking right through to the bylaws. Page 10, page 170. Where you have a providing checkout bags for plastic bags. The question was what happened with the paper bags? Because at one time it was no paper bags and now we're no plastic bags. So are we going to go back to no paper bags because we're using up trees? It's just a question. Okay.
So I got to turn this mic on. I apologize, but it may be another opportunity for you to speak in regards to the fire department's concern, but that will come up a little bit later.
Right.
And I think if you sit back, you will probably have another opportunity to speak to it in the future.
Okay. And what about the bylaws? Can I speak to?
Well, I think staff has made those notations and.
There's more. There's
well,
some
but
serious
your
ones,
time's up.
but I can come back.
You can email us, yeah.
But you're going to vote on these bylaws tonight.
And Ms. Lewis, I've given you the 4
Yeah,
minutes. That's
but
twice as much as I should allow. So
I understand, but are you
unfortunately,
voting on these bylaws tonight?
we are. Yes, thank you. Any, well, I've already asked for that, so we got nobody else coming forward, and so we will carry on. Thank you for your comments, Ms. Lewis. Let me just see where I am here now. Consent agenda number, that item number 11.1 be adopted as general consent, and that's a correspondence from June 22nd to July 5th be received and filed accordingly. We have a motion from Councillor Logans and okay, we have a request to pull something. What would you like?
Like to pull item D from Mayor Screech, support for the Island Rail Corridor.
Okay. So with the exception of item D, can we have a motion to someone want to move that correspondence received except for that one item? So that's Councillor Bateman and Councillor St. Pierre. I didn't have a seconder for it though. Are you okay with that, Councillor Logans? Because no. Okay, thank you. Like to hear that. So, all right, we have a motion on the floor to accept all except for item D. And the motion made and the seconder, you want to speak to the motion? Anybody? No, hearing none. All those in favor, raise their hand. All those against, raise their hand. I think that's passed. Thank you very much. Okay, reports or reallocation of material acquisition funds of 2022, 12.1. I guess we'll have a staff report. Oh, sorry, what did I miss?
That's okay. I just wanted to go back to the item pulled for discussion and clarify if that will then be put on the next council agenda or if the intent is to discuss it without council having it in front of them. I just wasn't sure.
Normally, correct me if I'm wrong, that we generally goes to the next meeting. Is that correct? Unless we decide otherwise.
That would be preferable simply because it's hard to track down the correspondence.
Okay, so the request is that it go on to the next meeting to be discussed. Thank you very much.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, 12.1 reallocation of material acquisition fund in 2022.
Thank you. Through the chair to council, $285,000 was allocated in 2022 budget for a material acquisition project from Ministry of Transportation's highway project in Sioux. That project is no longer viable and staff are requesting council's consideration to repurpose those funds to go towards critical maintenance activities to do with roadworks, paving, utilities, as well as any capital projects that are earmarked for 2022.
Thank you very much. That was pretty straightforward. Any discussion to that? I guess I'll get a motion first, Dave.
Point of order, just a quick question, please.
Sure, go. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Lajeunesse first, Mayor, and then I'll come to you. Thank you.
Yeah, just a question through the chair to staff. We were going to be getting some material from that highway project. Is that no longer happening then at all?
Through the chair to Councillor Lajeunesse, yeah, that is correct. The quantities were reevaluated on that project and there's no excess material to be acquired.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Tate.
Thank you. Question to Mr. Carter. We did receive some for the sport box. Was that the only project that did receive some, or can you share how much volume did we actually get out of this when it first set up?
Through the chair to Mayor Tate, that's correct. That material was considered donated. We didn't have to acquire that through monetary funds, and it was, I believe, approximately 2,000 to 3,000 cubic meters.
And that was the only project that received any?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Carter.
Is there, okay, Councillor Bateman, you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious, road infrastructure repairs. Now, clearly charters is a priority. Where are some other, what's your top 5 or top 3?
through the chair to Councillor Bateman, there's several areas of roads that are deteriorating. There's lots of critical repairs that need to happen on Otter Point. There's Ella Road that has some bad areas. There's some major storm infrastructure near the bottom of Sun Rivers in the overland flow area, as well as some potential safety concerns where the sidewalk ties in from Otter Point to Grant Road West. Those are just a few that we've earmarked.
Is there any other questions before I ask for a motion? Seeing none or hearing none, would somebody be care to make a motion? Councillor McMath, if you want to read it out.
That council approved reallocation of $285,000 from the material acquisition project in 2022 to be repurposed for required critical maintenance, capital infrastructure upgrades, and safety improvements to district roads, bridges, and utility infrastructure as required.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor St. Pierre. Any discussion to the motion? All right, Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to thank Mr. Carter for having the creativity to have identified a potential cost savings of such a significant amount. And thank you and keep up the good work. Thanks.
Whoa, very good. Any other comments? Hearing none, then all those in favor, raise their hand, please. Yep, and that's unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Next order of business is 12.2 engine 204 replacement deferral. I believe the chief is going to speak on this.
Thank you. Through the chair. Good evening, Chair, Worship, and Council. I'm going to be changing gears here, so just allow me a few minutes to explain what's taking place here. Due to supply chain issues, we thought it would be proactive by coming up with a report to issue a tender for the purchase of a new vehicle. The wait times are extremely long right now, and in order to get them here in due time, we thought we'd start the process a little bit earlier. Having said that, I provided you with a report with some detailed information as to why we were making this change. However, the attached document that this resident here was speaking to is dated information at best. It was only provided for context. I know there's been some changes and upgrades since that document has been created. So having said that, as I immerse myself into the operational side of this department, I'm discovering information that is quite important. And in order to do our work properly here, I want to take another evaluation of the next vehicle we choose to purchase and make sure it fits our needs operationally. So I would like to defer this report at this time and bring it back for council's consideration at a later date.
Thank you, Chief. Staff, do I need a motion to defer it or do we just defer it?
We can just bring it back at a later date. No motions needed.
Okay, so I don't even need a motion to that. Is there any objection to bring it back at a later date? Hearing none. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. Next one is 12.3 Sioux Program of the Arts at SPA recommendations. Do we have a speaker to that? Councillor Lajeunesse. Staff first, okay.
Your worship, just like to draw council's attention to the notice that's been attached to the report. That would be on page 69 of 222. Where we note as staff that there are 4 recommendations at the top of the report asking that council endorse and implement the June 29th, 22 discussion paper as amended, which took place at the SPA committee that same date, that council directs staff to begin collecting public feedback about the cultural plan update through the Let's Talk platform beginning in the summer of 2022, that council directs staff to include a reference to the discussion paper in the OCP, and that council directs staff to reapply rather for Communities in Bloom in 2023. The notes that were attached to the report indicate that the cultural plan is currently not part of council strategic priorities, nor is there a budget or staff resources allocated to implement the discussion paper in 2022. Therefore, staff would recommend that that be referred to the next council for its consideration. It further notes that sorry, I lost my eyes for a second. Council referred the SPA committee's request to allocate funds in the 2023 budget to conduct stakeholder engagement and public consultation on the cultural plan revisit to the next council for its consideration. There's currently neither budget nor staff resources to conduct this work in 2022. It's therefore recommended by staff that no action be taken as this issue has already been referred to the next council for its consideration. We note further that no action be taken on the OCP issue, given that there are already references within the draft OCP that could be considered during a council strategic priority session for the next council. That might be a more profitable place for that to be considered, considering it's a budgetation for 2023. And further on the final point, council directed staff in March to bring forward the 2023 Communities in Bloom program during the next budget deliberations, which would be next year, and therefore no action needs to be taken at this time. So just wanted to draw council's attention to that.
My understanding, the short and the long of that is we accept this for information only, because everything that you said is action there isn't going to be action.
That would be staff's recommendation, Your Worship, subject to a recommendation of council.
For information only, okay. Okay, Councillor Logans, go ahead.
How come this is on the agenda through the chair to someone? I honestly don't know.
I wish I could answer that, but I don't know either, so. Go ahead, Councillor Lasha. Okay, just that. Okay.
Yes, the SPA committee was working on updating the arts and culture plan that was developed in 2011, and they weren't quite through with that rewrite, or this discussion paper is what came out of that. It wasn't quite ready for the last meeting where we looked at all of the committee recommendations, and so they asked for an extension to bring it forward to the next meeting, which is where we are now. And the idea that brought about the discussion about the updating the arts and culture plan came from a recommendation that Councillor Bateman made to the SPA committee and to council to look at programming in our parks. And the committee felt that it would be more valuable to come up with a more fulsome arts and culture plan. And so they revisited the existing plan and decided that it could use a refresh, and without changing its substance, just to kind of give it a new look and a refresh, and have it included in the OCP and the arts and culture section to just describe to the public and to potential investors what our arts and culture scene looks like in Sioux.
Okay, our CAO.
And I would agree that all those discussions coming from a council committee need to come back to council. So regardless of the recommendations that staff had put forward, as a notation on the bottom of the SPA committee's report, we didn't feel it was appropriate to simply not put the report on the agenda. It was a council committee. They provided this information and wanted to put forward to council. So that was what we did.
All right, so my Councillor St. Pierre.
I have a question with regards to the third recommendation that council directs staff to include a reference to the discussion paper in the OCP. My understanding is that the OCP should be referring ideally to the document, the original document. And I don't understand why this particular piece should not be, if there needs to be a little bit more clarity in the OCP in terms of the language so that it's, it carries forward. Is that really much of an issue? And then at that point, everything else sort of follows. But I think you said there were language that supported it, but it sounds like it'd be better if it might be explicit.
Comment from staff. Go ahead.
So within the OCP, one of the action items regarding arts and culture is the review and updating of the current 2011 cultural plan. Now that action item is slated for a medium-term outlook. So that's looking at your 6 to 10 year window. So it potentially, depending on where that falls with the next council's strategic priorities, that could even fall outside of that next council's term. So given the references in the OCP and the policies, we've kept it general enough to recognize that work needs to be done. And it would appear as though this discussion paper would be some additional background information that would help support that work in the future. But until that time, we feel that it could just remain as that discussion piece as additional background for that future update to the 2011 cultural plan.
Okay, Councillor St. Pierre.
So just to follow up, it sounds to me like based on the recommendations from the SPA, all that would be necessary here would be potentially to change the timeline, which of course, isn't written in stone necessarily, but given they're looking at wanting to collect information that would support this plan, starting in 2022, they're not looking at a 6 to 10 year window. They're looking at something much faster. And I think it's up to council whether or not that's something we would like to support.
Councillor Logans.
Council already came to the decision that we would pass this to the next council for discussion. So I feel like we need to uphold that. There were many reasons why we weren't going to jump into supporting any of these at this time. And any discussion on it would be going back on our previous motion. And I support staff's recommendation to just accept this. So I'll move receipt that we accept, or so that we receive the June 29th version of the discussion paper
For information.
from the SPA committee for information.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to accept, sorry. Okay, I'm going to ask for a seconder. I was just going to read it. We have a seconder for it. Councilor McMath to second that. Okay, can we have staff read that motion back, please? Or is it on there? All right. Okay, so that council received the June 29th, 2022 discussion as amended by a Sioux program of the Arts Committee at the June 29th, 22 committee meeting for information. Okay, Mayor Tate, go ahead.
Thank you. So for this motion though, do we need to add something here then that these recommendations then be directed to the next council for their consideration, or is that automatically happening because of our previous resolution to that effect regarding committee work?
And Your Worship, that would be my understanding, that the motion to refer to the next councils for consideration would stand, and that this would simply be referred or received for information.
So that was basically decided earlier that we were going to do that.
Okay, so that is happening. We don't need to add it in here in any way, shape, or form. And then I would just comment that that's fine. I agree with all of that. And it's just also to be mindful that we run into challenges on the community in Bloom's piece. It's not to be a municipality-led initiative. It should be one that a community organization comes in and does. That's what makes it successful. So, but I'm hoping that as this goes to that next council, that information that we received about the program and why we were unable to continue on with it this year, just be considered in when, so all that information is together there. Not just the committee piece, but all the staff reports relevant to committee in plumes be provided as well. And just like to thank the committee for the reports and the authentically maiden, what is it, authentically maiden Sioux? I forget the title of it now. Report that was in here as I'm scrolling through many pages. Sorry, folks, the authentically vibrant by nature. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments from Councillor? Okay, Councillor St. Pierre.
I believe that these are all new recommendations, so we didn't have a chance to discuss them at the previous meeting where we talked about moving the recommendations forward. So I don't believe that it's inappropriate to actually consider them at this time more carefully. Having said that, the only one that we can actually really take any action on, as I said, is the third one. And we'll have another opportunity at the next OCP review to have a look at that. So I think we can move forward as it stands.
Any other comments from any council? Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, so thank you to the SPA committee for at their final meeting, right, of their term, they've come up with these 4 priority items, which clearly are top of mind for them. And it's similar to what the Climate Action Committee has done. We've identified what we believe are critical issues that this council or future councils need to look at. And I'm very glad that a publicly appointed council committee is doing that kind of proactive work. I agree with Councillor St. Pierre that the previous motion we made back at the committee of the whole of June 20th was very specific to those particular motions that had arisen at that meeting. So here I would suggest that we again add to the recommendation that council refer these recommendations to the new council during orientation for their consideration.
Councillor Logans?
I'm happy to do that if I mean, Mayor Tate alluded to it and Councillor Bateman saying it again, despite what staff recommended that these would go forward as well. But I mean, they may not have directly been discussed, but the whole premise is that we don't have the capacity to do this right now. And that's why we pushed it. So we don't have the capacity to do anything on this list. And if we want to, except perhaps OCP, which of course we can talk about later, but yeah, it comes down to that piece. So if we want to bundle all these up and put it in the same one, that's fine if you want it in writing.
So to me, the only question is do we add that piece about putting it on to the next council? Well, who motioned it? So this is a friendly amendment that we have to do first,
It
right?
would be an amendment, not necessarily friendly. I mean, it's friendly to me, but I don't think in writing it's friendly.
Okay, so sorry, I'll get some direction from staff.
I might suggest that council deal with the motion on the floor and then the 3 other proposed recommendations individually, because I think there are more things than just referring them to the next council in the next 3 recommendations. For example, as Director Paolo said, the second recommendation is to direct staff to begin collecting public feedback in the summer of 2022. But if in fact we aren't going to do the cultural plan review for another 6 years, then perhaps you don't want to refer that to the next council. And Mayor Tate alluded on the 4th one that council directs staff to reapply for communities in bloom. Council did already discuss that one in March, and staff indicated they would bring back a resourcing discussion at the next budget meeting. So you may wish to discuss them all individually and then deal with this one on the floor.
Yeah, that's not confusing at all. So that's good. So we have a motion on the floor. We have a seconder. We've had some discussion. So your recommendation is that we deal with this motion and then we deal with the other 2. Well, that's what I'm sort of, I mean,
If council wants to amend this one to add to and refer it to the next council, then we can do that as an amendment to the main motion, if that's what this one is, or council can just defeat this motion.
That was the intent as discussed when Mayor Tate asked the question that this is all being passed on to the next council as per our last discussion at the committee of whole that we ratified in regular council. And that should be the case with all of the recommendations that go along with this discussion paper.
so I think we're pretty safe if we just stick to the original motion. The other things are going to be carried through regardless. My understanding? So we have a motion, we have a seconder. And if I haven't heard any more discussion, I'm going to call the question. Hearing none, all those in favor? All those against? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And I don't think we need to go on about anything else about that. That's good. Anyways, it's good food for thought, but we'll move on. Thank you. .1. I hope I don't have to read all this stuff out. Municipal ticket information bylaw number 836/2022. 836 information bylaw that council will adopt this bylaw cited in municipal ticket information bylaw number 836/2022. Okay, Councillor Logan's has moved adoption and Councillor St. Pierre has seconded that. Would you like to motivate? Any other discussion from council? Councillor Lajeunesse.
Yeah, I guess it's 13.2 that I'm want to look at. Is this the same? There, I think we need also to have some bylaws around tree removal.
Just point of order, we're on adoption on 13.1.
We're not going to amplify it now. So we have a motion, we have a seconder. Any speaking to the motion? Okay, hearing no other questions, Mayor Tate, hand's not up. So all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Thank you. That is passed unanimously. 13.2, various amendment bylaws related to MTI bylaws. And there's a whole raft of them. What is council? Can I do all these staff all at once?
Council can move them all at once, and you don't need to read them because they were presented in advance. So you could, if you wanted to, just move them as a block as presented on the agenda. If I may, I did just want to speak to the comment quickly from Mrs. Lewers about the contents of the bylaw, if that's okay with the chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Generally at adoption, we don't have a staff presentation or much discussion, but at the last council meeting, we did a review of these bylaws. And essentially what this is an administrative process that takes the schedules out of all of these bylaws related to ticket enforcement and puts them in one bylaw, the MTI bylaw. So we're not amending any of these bylaws in any substantial way. We're just taking the enforcement piece out and putting it into one other bylaw. So the only exception to that is there's a small amendment in the animal regulation one, which is a change to a definition.
Thank you. That's very good. So 13.2, I just take a motion to accept them. I think that's how it is. Tony, so go ahead. St. Pierre, Councillor St. Pierre.
Okay, move 13.2 as a block.
Nobody has their microphones on.
Yes, I do.
As we have a motion, we have a seconder, and any discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor raise their hands. Thank you. That's unanimous again. Wow, everything's unanimous tonight. That's great. All right. New business, notice of motion by Councillor Bateman.
Okay, well, I hope this is unanimous too. We were unanimous back in March 2021 when I brought forward a similar motion. It was directed to the SPA committee, and in its wisdom, and I'm very glad they went ahead and did the larger projects. They looked at infrastructure in the park. They did a number of things. However, my motion was very simple, and I'm sort of stuck to it because, you know, my portfolios are climate action and the homeless. So here's something that seems to be kind of simple and easily achieved. The idea here is that the district could work with CPark, or at least start a conversation with CPark to get better use of our parks and trails. So I was at the fling yesterday in Ed McGregor Park, apart from, I think, some yoga classes at Ed McGregor and this International Overdose Day. That's the only thing happening in the park all summer. That's this beautiful, tiny, perfect jewel of the park. We used to have Starlight Cinema in that spot. And there are other things. Sea Park's professional programmers can, in conversation with the district, figure out some walking clubs. You know, other municipalities which are larger with better resources typically do things like summertime concerts in the park, popular music and classical, and walking clubs, and some small community events as well. So I'd just like to see, the idea of that original motion was to get us outdoors post-pandemic. And it's a pretty quiet summer in our parks. And maybe in 2023, we can get something happening. So that's the logic.
Okay, Councillor Logan's let you comment first, and I have a big comment.
I have a question, Councillor Bateman. Other municipalities, for the most part, have their own parks departments. Ours obviously is a different organization. So who gets the money from any of these activities and or who pays for the staff?
Well, there's two questions for conversation. I would think Sea Park, if Sea Park was to add it to its programming, say a walking club that utilizes the Stickleback and the Sea Walk trails, that would promote those trails, and that's the district benefit. And clearly the Sea Park would be I don't know, it's for a conversation at the Sea Park Commission.
I can comment on it if you
Yeah,
wish.
please do.
Yeah, as chairing the Sea Park Commission, these things that the Councillor Bateman is bringing up are things that we have discussed. And we have a Sea Park has a plan from 2015 that is supposed to be a 10-year plan. So basically it's not updated to 2025. But in discussion at Sea Park, we realized that time has moved on. And there's a lot of questions, and staff right now, Sea Park staff is looking for next year to go to the community and ask these questions in a questionnaire as to what do you want in your community? And when that happens, of course, we will have to include the District of Sioux, Sea Park Community Association, and some other groups as well. So these are very good ideas, but basically Sea Park is on them. And we, Sea Park and the District of Sioux staff have an extremely good working relationship, and these will all be discussed in due course. Again, we're stuck with the end of the year. There wasn't sufficient time to do it in this year because of the summer. We have to go out to the public and ask the questions, and that is on the agenda for next year to talk about getting that process going. And our community is growing. I think, well, you look back even 2015, we've grown leaps and bounds since then. And I don't think we can wait till 2025 to have a better plan of what people want. We're getting people wanting another arena. They want more ice time. We want people that want pickleball. I think there's a lot of inquiries in regards to better utilization of our parks, which is still being developed as we go. So this whole conversation is coming up, and I look forward to Councillor Bateman's input and other people's input. Depends on where we all are this time next year, but this is on the horizon. It's the exact same thing. So I think Mayor Tate could allude to that as well, that we've discussed this at some length and putting off to next year. So Mayor Tate.
Thank you, Chair Meadows. That is about right. There are a few things though, like pre-COVID, Sea Park offered there was a sign up for drop-in community walks. And I don't recall who the facilitator was. It was a free piece. So Sea Park just coordinated the registration. And it was, I don't quite remember the subject because I always wanted to go to it just to listen in. But now that our trail system is growing, I think what Councillor Bateman is highlighting is these conversations are happening, but because we've been separated because of COVID, sometimes it's hard to know that, okay, these people are actually talking to each other. What came up with the Sport Box opening was, hey, I wonder if this could be a venue for Starlight Cinema. And how could we coordinate together to make Starlight Cinema a reality in the sport box this year? So it's just, how do you capture these ideas? There is the more longer range on the work that Councillor Beddoes is referring to, where it really gets into growth in sports, what's growing, what's amenities need to be added, hence the lacrosse box, statistical data, the trends in sport. I see soccer rising because of the FIFA announcement, for example, and how does CPARC prepare and a plan for those things? But there are other things like, how could you bridge the two so that maybe Tai Chi or yoga or other things could occur more often through CPARC? So it's just kind of those missing links together. Otherwise, I think maybe it could just be a motion that, like some of our other committee work, that this be referred both to the next commission, which would be councillor designated, and the new council, so that they could sort of immerse not just in the hard infrastructures, but also these other pieces as well.
Yeah, I concur, Mayor Tate, with, if we go out to the public on a questionnaire and we have a very good communications person that we employ, we can ask a number of questions to get feedback on a lot of issues. But regardless, that's going to be a next year project regardless. So what sort of motion would you be interested in entertaining here?
Well, yeah, could I ask that this motion be forwarded to the CPARC Commission for their information?
Yep, just point of order, because this is already moved and seconded. So then Councillor Bateman, is making this as amendment then, right? Because this is moved and seconded already. It's here from discussion process wise. So it is the motion. So this should just be an amendment then that, this be referred, because it's a notice of motion that got introduced at the last. Has it not been moved and seconded already? Because then we shouldn't be discussing it at all.
Clarification of staff, Mayor Tate saying because it's a notice of motion, therefore it is a motion, but we don't even have a seconder for it. So I'm not sure how that works. So I need some help here.
No, what I'm saying is that Councillor Bateman gave notice. So I thought it was already seconded in the room, and that's why we're discussing it now.
That's not to my knowledge, Mayor Tate.
Okay, because I'm not always hearing the microphones. So that's why I thought it was seconded, and that's why I rose my hand to speak to the motion.
I missed something.
Councillor Beddoes, you're correct. If council were to move forward with it, it would be considered moved by Councillor Bateman, but it hasn't yet been moved or seconded officially as for consideration. So you could make a motion at this point to forward it to the commission. So in short, it hasn't been moved and seconded.
Okay, so with that information from staff, would Councillor Bateman be interested in making a motion that it be forwarded to? Okay, yes, sorry, Councillor McMath, go ahead.
Is the purpose of this motion to help CPARC and the District of Sioux work together to facilitate a higher use of the parks?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we don't need to have like a public survey. That's something separate that CPARC's managing. So really it's just having district staff or council liaisons from those boards work with CPARC. So in that instance, I think it's great that you brought it forward because now it's top of mind. But I don't think there needs to be a motion. Like, I don't think it needs to go any further.
I was thinking exactly that. So I was thinking I'd made my point and I might as well withdraw this motion, given the new information.
All righty.
Thank you.
That makes it very simple. I like that. Yeah, it's, I mean, it's some good stuff, but I think it's been looked at in depth. So, okay, that motion has been withdrawn. So now I guess we're on to council verbal reports. You want me to lead off? Canada Day. I survived. It was a really nice event. It turned out to be much more of a kids event than the previous years, which I was personally really extremely happy about. I am really pleased with the community and staff here that helped me a very difficult time after the logging show canceled 2 weeks prior to the event. We did put on a really good event, having the cupcakes this year, which was our staff made that suggestion. We realized after that they probably gave the cupcakes that we're supposed to assemble them like a flag, but somebody missed that. kids didn't care. They got white cupcakes, they got red cupcakes. They were happy as could be. It was nice to see our premier there and our member of parliament, and of course, mayor and council. Extremely pleased that we had 2 pipers, both RCMP members, male and female, not that that matters much. And they were just delighted to be there, and it was delighted to have that color party. So all in all, it just about killed me, but it was a good day. So that's my report.
Okay.
Councillor Bateman.
Off
you're
I
on.
go. So I attended the Gathering Place session at the MCS that the mayor referred to earlier. And yes, it's very much a fluid design, very skilled architect. And the Sioux Arts Council is going to be a partner, or not a partner, but there'll be space for it for a gallery and working space, wet spaces for creative endeavors. So yeah, very much a fluid proposal and the idea of integrating it effectively into Lot A. I attended a 3rd draft meeting for the Sioux Homelessness Coalition strategic plan. So that's coming forward. We had a final meeting of the Climate Action Committee, which we had some special guests, and they were a cub. I think they were Cubs and Girl Guides from Campbell, California, Troop 330. And they sat quietly in the back of the room for like 2 hours. It must have been.
They
It was a
bring you
very
cookies?
procedural meeting. They brought no cookies, but they did bring this
Oh, very nice.
badge. So I know the mayor collects these things. So here's something for your collection. And I'll just note the fling yesterday was really a great event. I got to, Maya is under the weather, and so I got to make the traditional opening statement. And just note how the district does support, provides modest financial taxpayer support to the Philharmonic, other arts groups, community groups that keep the community fabric together. And I did at the end express appreciation to park staff for keeping Ed McGregor, and which is a remarkable little park. It's gorgeous, and there's a bunch of alders have grown up. The original designers of that park, which was opened 20 years ago this year by the late Ed McGregor, they had intended for there to be these panoramic views out to the spit, and those alders have now grown up, so which they now serve as a windbreak. So there's a paradox there, but there is a gem of the view there as well. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bateman. Any other reports from council? Councillor Jeunesse.
Yeah, I also attended the Canada Day celebrations and want to thank the Lions for hosting another excellent event. It was a lot of fun and not bad burgers either.
Okay, nothing else? Oh, sorry. Ms. McMath. Councilor McMath, you have the floor. Oh, the mayor, sorry. I was looking past. All right. Mayor, sorry, my apologies. You're just about this big on my screen.
I know, it's thank you, Counselor. It's a fascinating experience actually to be on this end, because what I see in front of me is a photo of empty chairs and then the webcast is small. But anyway, I digress. It's important. You get a good sense of the user experience. So counselors, my apologies for how I may have neglected you in the past when you were virtual, and I'll be more mindful going forward. Anyway, I just want to thank Councillor Beddoes for our Deputy Mayor, I should say, for chairing tonight. You're also on deck to give remarks on behalf of Council at the Sioux Fine Arts Show for the Artist Celebration, as I will be away. Councillor Bateman, thank you for speaking at the Fling and also for your work at the Gathering Place. And well done, Councillor Beddoes, for Canada Day. I've learned also that the sparkly cupcakes are the ones that the kids prefer the most. So good to know going forward, but there was still plenty to go around. So there is also an event in August coming up. I may be on the mainland. It's a Saturday. It's out near Jordan River with the Sioux ATV Club. They're doing a big cleanup there. And so Councillor Beddoes, if you're around, just let me know and I'll send you that. But if you're not, because it is a weekend in August, If any other counselor is interested, please let me know. I'm sure the more the merrier. And also I'll forward you all. I'm starting to get invites with UBCM. There's also other events that go on in the evening. So for example, on the Monday, the Truck Loggers Association hosts a forestry sort of dinner. The Minister of Natural Resources will be there. 2 other delegates may attend. I'm not sure if even I can attend. So if up to 3 of you are interested, please email me about that as well. And I'll leave it at that and hope. My phone was a Rogers, my district phone, I should add, is a Rogers phone. So we all know what happened on Friday. So some of the messages are just coming in now, actually. So my apologies to members of the public or otherwise, if you haven't heard from me, because I didn't even know that you texted or phoned me until even now. So leave it at that. Thank you, everyone, for the evening, and take care.
Okay, with that, I have a motion to adjourn, please. Councilor St. Pierre, seconded by Councilor McMath. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Yay. Thank you, everyone.